let me introduce our speaker today. So you all know her name, DTM Dale, accredited speaker, who's with us. In addition to accredited speaker, she's a speaker, trainer, certified world-class speaking coach, the president of Speakers Bank in Australia, the author of The Speaking Formula. The Speaking Formula. She loves language, learning, and laughter, and she believes in combining these in equal measures is all her session. In 2017, our speaker, DTM accredited speaker, Dale, she was a semi-finalist at the World Championship of Public Speaking in Vancouver. Over the last 20 plus years, Dale has set up public speaking programs and has kept and spoken at conferences and events worldwide. Dale's success as a speaker and trainer is due not only for her years of experience and expertise, but the passion with which she approaches each and every engagement. My fellow Toastmasters, it's time to hear from her, and it's time for me to keep quiet for a while. So let's give the control to our speaker, distinguished Toastmaster Dale, accredited speaker. Floor is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And it's lovely to be back again and see you all here. One never knows when you embark on a series of talks whether people are going to actually come back for more. So it's very encouraging to see you all here this morning for you. And I was wondering whether you would turn on your cameras, because I sort of assumed most of you might still be in your pajamas this early. I know for a Saturday morning, that's a tall order. Now, last month, we went through the actual application process, so the nitty-gritty of applying for the accredited speaker, assuming that you already had a professional speaking career underway. Today, we're going to backtrack a bit further and say, where do you start if you want to build that professional speaking career? What's the stepping stones and things to think about in terms of getting that off the ground? And I will say that a lot of what I'm going to share today, I've got to remind myself not to say this evening, because it's nearly 6 o'clock in the evening where I am. So if I slip up, please bear with me. What I'm going to share with you today is wisdom that I've received from other people. It's also what I've done or observed for my own journey. So it's a little bit of a conglomeration of whatever I think might be helpful for you. So I'm going to share my slide. You can see I haven't got around to changing my name there. I'm in a transition phase. So my husband and I are separating, and I'm rebranding, if you like, with my birth name, which is Dale Ann Clark. So some things are still going to be Reese Bevan for a while as I move that forward. One of the first things you need to do is work out what exactly you're speaking on. What are you the expert on? What problem do you solve? What pain points are out there that perhaps you can deliver some wisdom on? Why this topic is basically the question you should be asking yourself. Where can I add value? Why you? What makes you the person that would be appropriate to deliver this talk or give information on this topic? So what do you bring to the table? And that could be that you have a degree in psychology, or you've worked in the specific field and bring a whole lot of experience there. It could be that you have an amazing story that absolutely ties in what that information is, what's going to make it land. So I'll give you an example. There's a quite a well-known Australian speaker who lost an arm in an accident, and he talks about falling forward. So, you know, experiencing a huge life event. I'm sure you can imagine losing a limb is enormous, but how he's managed to pick himself up, move forward, move beyond that awful experience, and make something of himself. So it's a message of motivation, of optimism, of resilience that he is very well positioned to talk about. So what do you bring to the table that no one else would? What would make you the person that people want to hear speak about it? And the next or final piece of the puzzle is who's going to pay you to hear it? Who's your market? Where are you going to position yourself? So if you think of yourself and your topic as the product, and then the people who are going to write the check for you, the people that are going to be transferring tens of thousands of dollars or whatever currency into your bank account, who's the target audience? And we typically refer to this as finding your niche. Now, I'm going to talk about niches because this is conventional wisdom. This is what everyone in the professional speaking associations talk about, and it's the message that comes out time after time. So I think it's worth exploring. I think it's worth being aware of and thinking about. And then I'll talk a little bit about what I've done. And I will stress that what I've done is not necessarily the best way to approach it, but this is the path that I've taken. So for some people, it would be around finding a niche industry. So for example, if you come from an engineering background and you've got knowledge and ideas specific to the engineering industry, that might be a fantastic niche for you. You might have worked in the legal industry and have ideas around streamlining processes and making communication specifically as a lawyer. That might be something that works for you. So you could do it that way. Or you could focus laterally on a specific level within a company. So many years ago, I met a woman at Professional Speakers Australia, and she delivered, it was essentially brand consultation, communication, that kind of package, a lot like what we do in Toastmasters, but she focused purely on the C-suite, the top executives, so the CFO, the CEO, the CIO, whatever other C's there are in a company. She only dealt with the top level executives, and then she would run communication training. And of course, because she went straight to the top, it meant she could charge really high rates for bespoke specific training for the C-suite. So that was how she niched herself. Any industry, but top management. You could focus on senior management or middle management. So if you want to look her up, there's a lady by the name of Sally Foley-Lewis in Australia, and she focuses on middle managers. That's her thing. She doesn't narrow it to a specific topic. So I've seen her talk on giving feedback, on productivity, on time management, on a number of topics, but always geared for middle management. How are you coping as a middle manager? How can I help you? And then whatever ideas she could come out with that. So a smart move, because when people hear her name, they think of her as middle management. When they're talking about training for middle management, they think of her name. So she's very neatly tied in to that that strata. You could focus on frontline staff. So again, in any industry, who's greeting the public, who's dealing with reception, staff, whatever the industry, who's representing your company at the front line, and that might be the target that you go for. And then, as I said, you can go by industry. So I personally have, if I was to say I'd niched myself, which I haven't really, because I do a wide range of things, and I'll talk about that more in a moment. But a large part of my work comes from the not-for-profit sector, or as it's often referred to, the third sector. And the reason for that is when I first got involved in professional speaking, it was through an organization called Speakers Bank in the UK, which was set up to cater for the not-for-profit sector. So the vision for Speakers Bank was to run affordable, accessible training for charities, NGOs, organizations that didn't have a massive budget, but still wanted to provide training for their volunteers, their staff, their managers, anyone who's involved in speaking up for their cause. So I got involved with that organization when I was living in London. And then when I moved to Australia, I carried on with that simply because that was what I knew I was most familiar with. And the way that I went about doing that, and I think this is a really worthwhile tip if you have similar things in your country, and I recognize that a lot of my ideas come from an Australian perspective, so obviously take what's relevant and use it where you can. But what I did in Australia was I went to an organization called the Centre for Volunteering, which had memberships with, so all the charities, all the NGOs were members of this umbrella organization. And I said to them, could I possibly run a free workshop for your members, and they can come and attend and see what I do and get to know it. And then if they hire me, obviously, the centre would get a commission or a cut of that. And they were very happy to do that for me. And the result was a lot of organizations then started contacting me to come and run training for them after that. And that's essentially how I grew my business, from that free workshop, but it got my name out there. And then that led to referrals and ongoing work, and that's the rest of the story. As I said, I haven't, although that is my main area, I haven't stuck specifically to that. So I've had people who have got to hear about me through other means who have then hired me to speak to their engineering companies. I've done a lot of work for architects, engineers, accountants. So yeah, my topic is presentation skills and communication. So that is a very transferable topic and skill that everyone needs. So the other way, which is not encouraged in professional speaking circles and not advised, is just the scattergun approach. Do it everywhere to whoever wants it, and see where it lands. The problem with that, and I'm now speaking from my own experience, is you tend to then become a little bit diluted and end up going a little bit everywhere. I personally don't mind that. I love variety. So this week alone, I've run a couple workshops in a school I've worked online with an individual client who's in compliance. And the week before that, I did a presentation for the Law Society. So, I'm doing a little bit of everything everywhere, and I enjoy that. I enjoy the variety. I enjoy the challenge of constantly tailoring material, tweaking it, coming up with new ideas. The smart people listening to me will hear the work that goes in behind that. If you're constantly adapting for different markets, different audiences, different groups, you're doing a lot of work behind the scenes, which is not as lucrative as having a product that you position and then you focus on marketing that and getting out to your target audience. Does that resonate with people? Do you understand what I'm getting at? Okay. So I guess it's up to you. Do you want to fine tune what you've got to offer and stick to your lane, which, as I say, is the general wisdom? Or do you want to have a lot of fun with the journey and get ADD like I do and have a big variety of clients and options to share your material? And it's really about deciding what's right for you. The other thing you need to work out is what is your method of delivery? How, if you've designed a product, how are you going to deliver it? What are you going to do? Obviously, we have the ability to do training online, which is very exciting, very demanding as well. And then face-to-face, personally, always so much more fun. Individual, are you going to take on individual coaching clients? Is that going to be part of your offering? Now, for the accredited speaker program, that won't count towards your, towards your ultimate goal. As a business owner, that could be a side offering that keeps you going when other things aren't, when other work isn't necessarily coming in. And it is, if you're going to do this full time, if this is going to become your new career, my feeling is you have to be willing to take work where it comes. I typically have 3 individual clients at any given time. It's in terms of bang for your buck, it's not as lucrative as doing group training. Obviously, you can charge a lot more for a package offered to a group, whereas most individuals won't pay a lot of money. But my price packages are not they're not unreasonable from my perspective in terms of it's worth my while to do that. And as I say, it means that I constantly have something going on in the background, which is useful. One of the things that is really, really important if you are going to be doing a mixture of these and creating offerings is you need to have really solid material. One of the things that kept me back from doing individual delivery was for years, I just found it so draining. It was just, one-on-one is not as energizing as talking to a whole group where you can have lots of input and lots of ideas and bounce suggestions off people. It's much more stimulating. And I found the individual work quite tiring. And then it took a while to evolve, but eventually I fine-tuned an actual program that I now do with individual clients, and that has made all the difference. So now I do quite look forward to doing individual packages. I've got specific material, I've got clear slides, I've got specific homework to give them. And I think that's worked out really well for both me and for my clients. My clients are getting a much better offering as a result of that. Same goes with group. What are you delivering? What activities have you designed? What materials are you giving them? What are their takeaways? You need to have good collateral, if you like, good materials to offer. So we talked last time in terms of the application, having good, clear professional speaking material. And on the right, I've shown you a couple of my handouts. What are you offering them? What are you giving them as takeaways and things to use? And as you know, I've always got my book, which is part of my package when I go to a client and deliver a training program. The participants will each get a copy of my book, which is a really good add-on, and people feel like they're getting that extra value when they walk away with something tangible to hold, as well as the information that they've received from you. Someone once said that a book is a really expensive business card. And I think that's a good way to see it. It's a big investment to publish your own book, but in terms of giving you credibility and that sense that you obviously take your information seriously. If you know enough about it to put it in a book, then you must know something. So there's that psychology of, all right, this really is an expert. So takes a long time. It's a lot of work, but I think that's worth doing. On your journey towards putting all of this together and starting to speak, so let's say you do manage to get together a group and do a free talk to an umbrella organization, or maybe you've already had experience. I know Khalid said he'd given a couple talks already. Get testimonials, get people to write down exactly what they loved. What did they get from your talk? What did they enjoy about it? And if they're willing to do that to video, even better, because then you've got some amazing material to share, and people can people can see that. You can pop it on your website, your social media. Wonderful resource. You need a well-designed speaker sheet, and that would be all the typical things of contact details and what your topics are. Some really good advice that Cheryl Rausch gave. I think many of you might be familiar with accredited speaker Cheryl Rausch. She always talks about making sure that when you talk about what topics you're going to deliver, tell people what they're going to learn in it. So how to, and I think if you use that as your starting point for each sentence, how to, participants will learn how to, if you're going to do public speaking as your thing, how to stand confidently, use expressive body language, persuade their audience, whatever you want to put, but make the takeaways fairly specific and tangible. Targeted social media to build your newsletter following. I think nowadays we collect a lot of interest, a lot of people there. I'm not convinced I've got a lot of clients from social media, but I know that a lot of my existing clients follow me on social media, so I stay in their consciousness. So from that point of view, I think it's definitely worth doing. And some people have found me through LinkedIn. So, but I suspect that's more from looking for trainers. I think I mentioned to you last week that I've had a few people say they chose me because of the accredited speaker. So I think they were actually hunting, and that's how they found me, rather than through my social media campaigns, which are not very strong. I'm very sporadic in that. And I've already mentioned the speaking for free to umbrella groups, which I hope is an option available to you. And I think that is pretty much my suggestions or starting points to kick off with. The big thing is deciding who you are as an expert, what you're going to talk about, who you're going to talk to, and how you're going to deliver it, and what the biggest thing is, what value are you adding? What are you leaving them with? What are you giving them? And that's going to ultimately determine your success. What I would love to do, I know we talked a little bit last week about some ideas for setting up businesses or running workshops and some of the ideas. What I'd love to do now is open it up to the floor and explore ways that we can think about niching your idea, how you could kind of create your own special target market and how you can capitalize on that. And I think one of the starting points is to think about who do you want in your audience, and be as specific as possible when you think about that. So if you're willing to share your ideas with the group, I think, and don't be afraid that other people are thinking similar things or planning the same thing. There are a million, particularly those of you who are going down the public speaking route, there are a million public speaking trainers and communicators, and a lot of us are getting work. So I think it's fine to share ideas and share possibilities. Yes.
Okay, so for me, I basically focus on 3 areas. One is the students, especially graduate students who are graduating and looking for job. So I talk to them about the job market, challenges, what they need to be prepared with. And that's I do with the universities. And the other one I do is on artificial intelligence. So it's basically a discussion where you go to conferences, not otherwise, unless there's a conference. So I'm very focused on that. And the third is on the risk management. So that's my 3 areas where I talk.
And who's your risk management target audience?
It's basically the senior management and the risk executives, risk management executive, because we cover a lot in that area. One is how to manage a risk, what are the risk in general for an organization as a corporate, and the risk, enterprise risk, which covers the whole enterprise. So different areas in the risk, we talk about the whole thing and the process and how things needs to be automated. And usually I start with, when I was a kid, I'm still a child, by the way, but when I was younger than my kid age, we used to play a game, which is a snake and ladder. So I start with that usually, and I tell them, we learn the risk management even when we are at child age, and now we have to take it in a professional way. So related to your personal life and your work, your education, and how it can affect the society. So you just walk them through the whole process.
Lovely. I love that. So, and that would apply to pretty much any company, right?
That's true. That's true.
That topic. Okay. So you're niched on topic, but broad in terms of target audience. And you could argue, sorry.
Yeah, because I think that fits in any organization. It can be a non-profit organization, commercial, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. So the people in the room, from a company point of view, would it be middle management, senior management?
Well, there are usually the executives, the risk executives, sometimes the chief operating officers level,
Okay.
and then the risk managers. So the C levels,
Yeah.
and of course,
Okay.
the
Nice.
people who are supporting them.
Yeah. That's nice. Means you can charge more.
Yeah, I think I should start charging now people.
Yeah,
But yeah,
absolutely.
some of them they do, compensate in a way or the other. Like
Yeah.
they pay for the travel or they pay for the food or for the dinner. So that's how it's covered.
Okay. Okay. Definitely need to start upping your fees. You could also, just thinking in terms of consistency of message, if you were sort of launching social media campaigns, is talk about the risk management of not being prepared adequately for your interviews. So dovetail it into the overlap topic there, and make that part of what you're offering your students.
Yeah, for students, it's fine because that's sometimes I need to be careful with my work because I don't want to have any conflict. So usually
Yeah,
I get permission to do so all those. So that's why I'm not making the public unless very
yeah.
specific. Then I get permission
Okay.
from my organization and then connect it.
To go off to the universities. That's nice. That's great. And a very
It's
valuable
part of the
service.
social responsibility as well from the organization. So it's all works better.
Nice. Um, shall we go
Yeah,
to
DTM Ram.
Thank you. Thank you, madam, for the wonderful accredited speaker. We are blessed to have you here and listening to you on how we can go about. Well, I'm a HSC. In other words, people call me HSC professional. I don't consider myself an expert because every day is a new day and entire life is a learning process. That's why we are here. So in congregation today, I'm a freelance trainer sometimes whenever it is required in HSSC aspects, health and safety. Okay, I'm HSC manager working for one of the subcontractors, Sabah Group International, for the KPC oil sector. What I do is training to my employees and peers, whoever they ask for. I engage them with the case studies, scenarios, and elements, and with the outlines of the basic structure of how you ensure that there are our aim is to prevent an accident and protect environment and minimize disasters. So basically, these are the things which I do. And the target audience, usually the employees, workers, new employees, continued with the refresher courses, training. And additional to that, whenever they have a demand or whenever there is an incident happen, then we grow there, like work at height. Okay. Fall hazards, increasing threat, okay. Losing the limbs or amputate fingers. These are the common hazards we always face in the logistics, in the work environment, wherever we are. So we increase the awareness to all the employees. Thank you, ma'am.
That's wonderful. And that's such a good niche to get into. One of my colleagues in Australia was a neuro-linguistic programming trainer. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that field. Um, a couple nods. So that's very much around using language, using the way you think about things to get outcomes. And she got a little bit of work through that. And then she realized that one of the companies that was hiring her the most wanted her to use the NLP for health and safety purposes. And that gave her a light bulb moment. So she thought, rather than teaching NLP, she became known as the safety training expert. So she still does NLP. That's what she does. She talks about a mindset of safety, of how you think about it, how you talk about it in the workplace. So she's still using her material, but it's positioned as health and safety training, and she's created the most amazing programs and packages that she delivers. on that front. So you're in a really good area. Can I just ask, have you developed specific frameworks or models that you use?
Usually we get a material always. We rely upon the statutory international regulations, procedures, strategies. Occupational health and safety, OSHA, is one of the guidelines we take. And when it comes to the fire and safety, we always rely on NFPA, National Fire Protection Association. This is one of the key area. And in the Middle East, we go upon NIBOSH, IOSH, UK, managing safely. So we get all ready-made materials, to be honest, because we pick like snippets, some tarts, like good breakfast, if you want to have, you keep the metals, but we concise it, we summarize it in a way, like I'll explain to in a simple way, because in 1 minute. Do you know how to extinguish the fire? Yes, I know. You know fire extinguisher? Yes, I know. Is it round, vertical, short, tall? No, there are different various kind of fire extinguishers. Do you know the technique of fire extinguishers? No. You want to pass or fail today? Pass or fail? I want to ask someone of the audience. You want to pass or fail? How many of you? DTM Khalid. You want to pass or fail?
Of course, pass.
Pass. What's the spelling of pass? DTM Khalid. What's the spelling of pass?
PASS.
See, the use, remember, pass, pull the pin, aim the base of the fire, squeeze, and sweep at the base of the fire. And when you cannot extinguish, please raise, response, rescue, alarm, confine. This kind of a method I use, and they get really good understanding on the basics need of fire and emergency. Thank you, ma'am.
That's absolutely brilliant, and that's exactly what gets people coming back, is if you've got a framework or a model that people can remember. Audiences love that. Groups, particularly, as you say, for training, you want them to hold on to it, and in your case, it could be life or death. So you definitely need those. Either acronyms like you've just demonstrated, or models. It could be a square, it could be a circle, it could be a triangle or something. Those sort of things work so well in terms of memorability. So that's good collateral to have.
Thank you. Because we have a hierarchy of the risk controls, risk management, and we also have a tetrahedron of the triangle, how to use. Those models are always available. We rely most on domino cycle, plan, do, check, act. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. The wheel is a wheel. Right? But how do you adopt? How do you inform? How well they understood? That's what, as a trainer, I would look into it.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it.
And I suspect you bring an awful lot of personality to your training, so that's also going to stand out.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to share their ideas or their questions? Yeah, I love that comment by, is it Farouk? You're absolutely right. It's what you bring to the table as a person that makes the difference to how people receive it.
I have a question, Dale, since no one is raising their hand. Now, your second slide, we're talking about the niche. You mentioned about the engineering, you mentioned about the non-profit organization, education. And you also say there's no specific rule. It depends on the individual, how they want to select it. Either they want to have a niche on one particular area, or they can go to talk about all the segments. Now, is it wise to have the same topic wherever they go? It could be a common topic for all. Like if I talk about risk management, it can be risk management for engineering, for nonprofit, for banking, for manufacturing, for education, or even for United Nations. So risk management is risk management, right? So can we talk about it across, or it has to be very specific for each vertical? Like if it's
Um,
engineering, I have to have a separate discussion, a separate topic, or non-profit, different topic, and so on. So your view.
yeah. I think you can have the same topic and the same material where I would expect any professional speaker with his or her salt to make adjustments would be in the types of examples that you give. If you can tailor those to the industry that you're talking to. So for example, when I'm talking about presentation skills, if I'm going to deliver that to a not-for-profit organization, I would talk about if you want to motivate your volunteers, or if you're fundraising and you want to persuade people to donate money. So I'd make it, very much, what are you trying to do, you in this audience? Whereas if I'm delivering presentation skills training for lawyers, as I was last week, it's around, well, if they want to go out talking at networking events to get more work in for their firm, then they're trying to impress future clients. So how do they represent their organization as the most dedicated, solid group of lawyers? So in those little nuances of how you position the information, that's where the kind of tailoring lies. But certainly I would imagine you've got some great case studies or again, models, acronyms. Those would still generally, and I'm talking from a point of view of knowing very little about risk. So but I think any topic that is applicable to any industry, the material, the foundation would stay the same.
Okay. Now, any other questions from the audience? Okay, so I go with the next question. Okay.
I have one. DTM Khalid, can I? One
Yes,
second.
please. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to ask you, because when you ask for the tariff, or how do you quote about, how do you evaluate yourself, your ability, your capability in the market? How do you sell yourself? What's your best quote? What's the fees? This is a question we are pondering, and we are not sure. We are not certain about it. How do you ensure that your certainty, that where do you stand? Thank you.
Yeah.
Good question.
The easy answer is I have no idea. I'm still learning that. I think a lot of it has to do with assessing who the client is, what they're prepared to pay. And again, there's a lot of discussion in professional circles around what they call fee ethics and being honest. Like, if this is what you charge, then this is what you charge. Don't up your rate for some people and charge less for others. Honestly, my feeling is that doesn't work. That simply does not work. I have clients who just don't have a budget. So what do I say? I'm not going to work for you. You're not going to pay my fee. Find someone else. Or I could say, okay, I'll have fun working with them. I have nothing else on that day. I'll take that fee and I'll deliver what they want and work for that. So the other thing is, while you can say I'm willing to accept bottom fee here, is be aware that in some areas, and I'll use the example, I've done some work in pharmaceutical companies. They have a big budget, and more than that, and similar with the engineering companies, they expect to pay a lot of money. And if you come in too low, the perception is, well, how bad are you? So you need to be charging what the market expects you to be charging to be taken seriously as a trainer. And I was very fortunate when I did the work for the pharmacy company because this was one big project that I had. I had a friend in the company, and she kind of took me aside and said, "This is what you can expect to charge." So that was, and there's no ways I would have ever charged that much in any other arena, but I was lucky to have her ear. And it turned out that there was another trainer involved from America who was charging even more. So, I think it's just about understanding the industry that you're in and what their expectations are, and then adjusting accordingly. So, yeah, I agree in principle with the idea of pricing honesty and pricing ethics. The reality is that you've got to take it on a case-by-case basis and look at the industry. Not-for-profit industry does not pay big money, and they expect to get away with very little, and they'll always sort of go, "Oh, but we're just a charity." So. But that being said, I had a conversation just last year where someone asked if I'd do a talk, and I said, "Well, this is my fee, but if it's outside your budget, I'm happy to talk." And she just went, "No, that's fine." So, you never know what people have. You can only communicate.
Can we get
I'm
that
sorry.
email, please?
I'm conscious that probably wasn't the most helpful answer.
It's okay.
Can we
Thank
get that
you.
email?
Thank you,
Can we get
madam.
that email, Del, so we can send our profile to them? Open for budget. Me and Ram, we can go there.
Oh, dear.
Thank
Someone said you can ask and use nonprofit for publicity. You can, and I would always say if they're willing to pay something, that's a good idea. And the reason I say that, even when it's nonprofit, is I think the more people start to, it's about educating people. The more they start to realize that you have something valuable to offer, that you have worked to be able to deliver that information, either through research, experience, or practice, and you deserve to be paid. They may not be able to pay you top dollar, but you still deserve something. So absolutely, initially, where you're still finding your feet, a few freebies is great. I would say don't get in the habit of giving away your valuable time and expertise, because it is about educating the wider public that this is not something that just, because you feel like talking, that they should be able to take that for granted. And I think there's a classic example a couple years ago on International Women's Day. Someone was saying, we need to get more women on panels and we need to get more women speakers out there. And she was approached with, "It's International Women's Day. Would you like to come and speak? We don't have a fee, but you'd be doing it to stand up for women." And she said, "No, I'm standing up for women and insisting that you pay me for my time." So, people can really take advantage. Baruch, do you
Yeah,
want to?
just wanted to add a comment on that one for a non-profit. Usually, because I have done that multiple times, most of the time what happens is, as you said, you have a value and you have to make sure that you get that value from the market. You cannot compromise on that, because once you lower that standard, everybody will expect a bargain from you. Now, what happens is when you are dealing with non-profit organizations, I typically ask for, okay, if they cannot pay me what I require, or they cannot compensate properly. So I used to ask them, okay, who are the attendees? What are their profiles? How many attendees do you guarantee? And what is the publicity you are going to do? Okay, at least sometimes they do it internally to select group. Okay, that's all right. But that ensures for me that I get a clientele, and from that clientele, I can actually get more repeat engagements. So that is one of the things. And I typically say to people, like, whenever you have these training sessions and everything, these are, think of them as not only engagement session, but also think of them as marketing sections where the audience is paying to you to market yourself. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a very valuable point. And you can also negotiate to film the session. So you can get good social media clips and footage from your talk. So you're walking away with something that is a useful resource as well. Thank you for that comment. That's absolutely, I agree with that. Khalid?
Yeah. The same topic, once we were discussing outside, so not in this meeting, but separately. And it was a training going on, and we were asking the opinions of each other. And something which we discussed during the training is, if you want to start your career as a professional speaker, you want to go out in public and speak, don't look for money right now. Keep that aside. Just approach any opportunity you get. Get into that forum, get into that limelight. People should know that you are a speaker and you're speaking. And if they start calling you after that, maybe at that time you can think of putting can invoice them, or you can still go to a professional because they invited you for the first time. You can go at no cost to them, no charges. And then for the next time, you can say, okay, look, if you make me a regular speaker, then there's a fees attached to it. I cannot come every time for free. So
Yeah.
that is one approach which we follow, by the way. I also follow that. So when there is a need, I can see there is, okay, platform where I can go and speak. I don't lose opportunity. I just go and speak. If I can speak on that topic, if they're calling me for. Sometimes they call you for a speech or talk, a topic which is not your expertise. You have no knowledge, not knowledge. So then I tell them, look, I cannot come and talk on the topic. If you want, I can talk on X, Y, Z, but not A, B, C. And then we have an argument. Sometimes they change their stance. Okay, fine. You speak on that topic. We'll have somebody else speak on the topic they wanted to have, because we also have extra slot. So that has worked very good for me personally. So that can be something people choose if you advise them as well on the same.
That's absolute gold, Khalid. I agree. And the other thing you can do is, if they ask you to speak on that topic, is say, I don't do that topic, but I know someone who's very good at it, and I can put you in touch. And then you become a consultant for them, and you've delivered value, which they will remember for future events and for your relationships. So I think you're right. The foot in the door approach is not a bad idea at all. I think I've just got to the point where I've done so many freebies that I feel I've paid my dues. I've done my work. It's time. And I'm reminded of a great story where someone contacted a professional speaker and said, come to our conference, it'll be great exposure for you. And he wrote back and said, I clearly have enough exposure because you know who I am and you knew where to find me. So if you want me to speak, you'll be paying for it.
Okay, I want to take a question from DTM Nasreen, but before that, I just want to make a small comment. We have Toastmaster Kai Mating with us. He's a regular speaker in different forums, and especially talks about the waste management, especially food waste. So he's doing a great job, and I think he should think of a great speaker because he has a very niche area of speaking. Dr. Nasreen, you raised your hand earlier. You still have your question?
Yes, thank you, Khalid. Thank you. Thank you, Dal, for the outstanding speech. I did benefit from it too much. I work as a professor in nursing, and actually I give or deliver hundreds, not thousands, of speeches in conferences. So these speeches I tailored for each department or faculty I'm going to. My question is, they ask me always or to benefit from my talks or speeches. So I would deliver without asking, what are you going to deliver? Because they know that my attitude in caring, in communication skills, and medication errors and patient safety. So these people ask me to deliver things. Recently, I was asked in Matruh, which is around 400 kilometers from from Alexandria, to deliver a regular week speech training for communication, etiquette in the meetings, and so on. I would deliver it for 1 hour. It is regular for 1 month ahead. And every time they ask for a topic, either I suggested or they ask for it. For example, last time was the meeting etiquette, and the next time it'd be about forgiveness. My question is, for how long would I do that without marketing? I don't market for myself, but my talks has market me. So they asked me from one era to another to come and deliver. So what do you suggest? Thank you.
Sorry, I just want to make sure I understand the question. So they're already asking you to go out and deliver these. This isn't part of your normal job, your paid employment.
No, this is not this is like a volunteer work in conferences. This is not a part of my job. And the training they are asked for that new faculty for 1 month regularly base, it is for as volunteer training.
Okay.
So
And
I want your
and it is not your
advice.
organization, right? It's not within your organization.
No. So I want to ask for advice. Is it possible to go on like that, or would I change to marketing?
I would, I mean, it's a personal call, isn't it? It's personal judgment, but I would suggest if they keep asking you back, they like what you're doing, you have value. So I would start putting a figure on it, and it might initially be a lower figure. You know, you could just say, look, I really need to cover the cost of my time that I'm putting into this, and of course the day that it takes me to get there, or whatever. Because remember, when you charge for an hour, you're charging for the whole day. You can't do anything else on that day. So that needs to be taken into consideration. And I would imagine there's a certain amount of preparation that goes into it. So I would definitely have a little chat and say, I love working with you. I love doing this. I need to start charging. This is a side business that I'm setting up. So this is what I'm thinking of putting the fee as. How does that sit with you? And yes, even if it is online, it's still your time.
Thank you.
Correct. Thank you very much. Thank you for your question, Dr. Nasreen. Thank you very much, DTM Dale, for this wonderful Q&A session as well, in addition to the knowledge you have shared with us.